Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Taking a look at next week's slate as we have USC heading on the road to play Notre Dame. And quite frankly, this is a game that you had circled in the beginning of August. And both teams probably not playing their best football heading into this matchup. Still some key numbers and some key players that I want to dig into. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support you guys have shown the boys for all these game breakdowns truly does mean a lot. If you want to support the fellas, the best way you can is to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys rocking with us. Dill, I'm going to give you the T-box here. USC heading on the road to play Notre Dame. How are we feeling here?
I mean, I would say this is a game where both these two teams desperately need to play better. I mean, right now, both are again, last 2 weeks have just been weak for both squads, and both have at times though look like teams that can go be very much competitive in that national landscape. And USC still trying to keep that kind of hope alive, and obviously in a big year with Caleb likely being his final year, although who knows. And then Notre Dame just kind of trying to get on track with like the Marcus Freeman era, essentially. I think this is just a monster week where like you want to win it for sure, but I think both teams just frankly need to play.
That's what I'm looking for. Like both of these teams just get back to playing your best football. Like we saw Notre Dame look like a legit national title contender against Ohio State. And this is a USC team that at times has really, really flashed. But the last 2 weeks, especially on the defensive side of the ball, just hasn't played well enough. Dill, I want to start there because I think the story for every USC game starts on the defensive side of the ball. And I get it. Caleb Williams didn't have his best game against Arizona, but even when he didn't play his best game, they still scored, 43 points. When USC wants to do something special, like go on the road and beat a Notre Dame team that I legit still think is a top 15 team in the country, it starts with the defense. You know Notre Dame's going to want to run the football. I want to start with the linebackers for USC because I think this is a massive game for these guys to play their best brand of football.
Well, and they need to find some rotation or something that works because right now they really haven't had an answer for that position. I think the defensive line is playing very good. They're being disruptive. They're making negative plays, doing the things we all thought they needed to do. But I think you're right. I mean, the fact that like when these linebackers contact guys, they're missing tackles, they're getting dragged.
They're just simply not feeling. They're not fitting the run the right way. And we kind of said it, and I thought it was going crazy for a little bit, right? Because the USC fans know we've talked a lot about Tackett Curtis and just true freshman. He looks lost out there. And I'm like, am I missing something why he keeps playing? I go to the PFF grades. He's dead last in run defense on the team. And it's not that surprising. I'm not trying to drag him. He's a true freshman. He's going to be good for USC, just not right now. Then you look at a guy like Eric Gentry. He's grading out like one of the best linebackers. That also matches up with what you're seeing on the film. I wonder if you see a little bit more Gentry in this game. And I know like Eric Gentry, more of a wiry guy against a bruising Notre Dame team. I wonder if you see a little bit more Gentry or maybe even Shane Lee, two guys that have quite frankly been their best linebackers in terms of stopping the run. And you know Notre Dame is going to want to run the football.
Well, and that's going to be a thing because honestly, I look at this matchup. I think USC matches up in the other two areas pretty well. Yes. I think the secondary really shouldn't have a problem with the Notre Dame wideouts. I think they're just like they're too athletic, they're too good. And Notre Dame is very banged up at that spot. So I'm looking for USC side. It's like this defensive matchup it should look okay at both the defensive line position and in the secondary. It will be. They just got to find something that works for this linebacker play.
I mean, you look at the secondary. My biggest take on the secondary for USC is they're just not giving off zone. Like you go back and watch that Arizona game from last night. Guys are running wide open. The zone coverage is just not getting.
Well, the middle of the field's been bad for 2 years now, and for whatever reason, they just can't figure out how to. Again, what you said, defend the middle of the field with zone coverage that works. Because you're right, that's where teams are hitting them. There, you can run across the field, catch it, and you can run for another 20 yards. It's just like these same problems. And I know they've said, Lincoln Riley said this defense, like the problems aren't the same as they were last year, but certainly some of them do feel like they are a little bit similar.
Let's be quite frank. A lot of them are the same. Like, I don't care what Lincoln Riley kind of frustrated me in the press conference, kind of saying that type of stuff where it's like, there's obviously still those problems. Last thing I want to say on this USC defense, Notre Dame struggling to protect Sam Hartman, especially on the inside. This is one thing. Like we can drag USC's defense and rightfully so in a lot of different ways. One thing USC has been doing a really good job of is rushing the passer. right? 9.2% sack rate. That's top 25 in the country. I'm specifically Jamil Muhammad, Solomon Byrd, guys on the edge. They've been great. I'm looking on the inside because where you look at where Notre Dame is struggling the most on the inside, it's been with their centers, guards, and pass protection. Bear Alexander, Kion Bars, Benton. I'm looking for them to have a massive game in terms of impacting Sam Hartman and stopping the run.
And that'll be the huge thing because you look at like this Notre Dame offense and what they need to do to be successful. If they can't stay on schedule consistently, that's where they've gotten Sam Hartman into problems where he's turning the ball over and taking sacks and not looking like himself. And that's been when they can't, they've struggled, but when they can keep themselves on schedule, they've been okay. So that's, I think, why this USC defensive line is going to need to have a game because like, I think this Notre Dame offensive line is susceptible in that inside. I think they've been good on the inside. I think they can rush with their defensive ends on the inside because they're big and physical players in a lot of senses. So that to me is that'll be the again what Notre Dame essentially needs to avoid is to let this defensive line.
That's Bill. You make such a like. Why does Sam Hartman struggle? Especially yesterday against Louisville, they're getting off schedule. Why did he look, I thought, really solid against Ohio State? They're staying on schedule against a really good defense, staying on schedule against Louisville. Way too many second, third, and longs where the Louisville defense line just pinning the ears back and getting after Sam Hartman. That's got to be the thing. I completely agree. Staying on schedule and kind of staying out of those obvious pass rush situations against the
and that's where they can like work the tight end and get the ball out quickly. Because when Sam Hartman's getting the ball out quickly and on time and into the middle of the field, he's been really, really good this year. And then, frankly, he's been okay hitting the deep ball at times. Again, when they're on schedule, when they can run off play action, and that's worked okay. It's just when they get into that like third and long. That's why I'm looking for this Notre Dame offensive line to just put it like they got to play the way they can. I mean, they're good enough players. I think they have enough guys on that inside. They've recruited that position very well. Like they just got to find what works. But again, I think they should be able to run the ball against this USC team. And Audric Estime, I think, is a horrible matchup for these USC linebackers.
Yeah, tackling's going to be big. All right. We got to talk about this USC offense against the Notre Dame defense that I think can do some things to disrupt USC, starting with this USC offense. Obviously, the best quarterback in the country with Caleb Williams. You look at some of the struggles they had against Arizona. I feel like a lot of it was kind of getting behind the chains and not really taking what's there, right? Caleb Williams kind of forced to run a little bit. The USC pass pro was probably their worst game against Arizona. Caleb Williams kind of having to run for his life a little bit. A couple of things I want to just note. Zachariah Branch sounds like he'll be back. I think they held him out of the Arizona game so he can be healthy for this Notre Dame matchup. Still, I think where USC struggles the most is when Caleb Williams and this offense just want to hit the big play, right? This is the most explosive offense in the country, averaging over 10 yards per pass. Really, really elite numbers. They also run the ball well. But what Arizona did to kind of slow them down was, hey, we're not going to give you the explosive play. We're going to kind of force you to march down the field, take what's there. And I thought that gave USC's offense probably the most struggle we've seen in the last 2 years from that group.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not very worried about this USC offense. I do think like that offensive line, haven't seen that in 2 years. They've honestly been very good. I was stunned to see them struggle that much. But again, just given how consistent they've been for the last couple of years, I don't think that's going to be repeated. I think they'll be okay there. I don't think they'll allow that to again, that did pretty much ruin that first half for them. They really didn't have much. And Caleb Williams, he definitely wasn't as sharpest. So I think in general, they just didn't play very well, but I think still it will be nice to get back a little more playmaking on the edge. Cause you look, they have been missing that a little bit and they've gotten the ball deep downfield to Rice a couple times, and he's obviously been playing.
Rice has emerged to be that good.
They are missing that ability to dump the ball off to really electric players or get the ball underneath the guys who can really go make a play.
Because you look at some of the most success USC's had is working after the catch, right? Just a ton of explosive guys with the ball in their hands. Now, you look at this Notre Dame team, and the reason I say they match up okay against USC is they've been one of the best teams in the country not giving up the explosive pass. Right, teams are only averaging 5.5 yards per pass against this Notre Dame defense. Dill, if Notre Dame can kind of bottle Caleb Williams up and not really let him find those explosive plays, that's kind of the recipe or the avenue that I see this Notre Dame defense just doing something to slow down Caleb Williams and USC because you ain't really going to stop him.
And USC really hasn't seen a secondary, I think, that's as good as ND's secondary is playing
very good.
They're up there with anyone in the country. Morrison might be one of the best cornerbacks, period, in all of college football. So, again, I do think that's going to be the interesting matchup because, again, USC does like to hit those explosive plays. And frankly, I think also another issue is Notre Dame's linebackers are playing really well against the run. And you saw when Notre Dame couldn't, or USC, I should say, couldn't establish the run against Arizona. That was another moment where they were really struggling. And frankly, I think that had something to do with the pass rush really getting home against USC. So I do think Notre Dame at those two levels, they're kind of a good matchup because I think that linebacker room is playing really good. Aside from a few moments of Jawar Jordan, who did take it off.
Well, he's a good running. And I will say this, Notre Dame's defense, I don't think, has been the problem. I think they played pretty well against an explosive Louisville offense last night, Dale. Let's get to the pick here. USC 2.5-point dogs on the road against Notre Dame. Who are you picking?
I think I got USC mainly because I just don't know that, I think Notre Dame is going to give up negative plays. I think USC, that's the one thing they've been able to do successfully. Yep. It's the one thing Notre Dame for the last couple of weeks feels like they haven't been able to really stop, especially on the inside where, again, you got very good athletes, guys who want to go tackle the ball carrier. They want to go make plays. They're not like two-gapping and sitting in there and not getting upfield. Like they want to do it. They want to be disruptive, and they have been. And then on the other side, I just don't think Notre Dame's defensive line's dominating football games like we've seen in the past couple of years. And I get it. They've lost a ton of really good players to the draft, like Foskey and some of those guys on the inside, but they're not dominating football games. And if you can't control the defensive or offensive line of USC, I think that's when they really get into, like, you really just can't do anything if you can't beat that USC offensive line up.
Lot of words for you to say USC. I only need two. Caleb Williams. I'm taking USC as well. I'm not betting on their defense. I'm betting on Caleb Williams being the best player on the field, scoring more points than this Notre Dame team. They haven't lost yet. I feel like the USC fans want to act like the sky's falling. This is still an undefeated team. I like Sam Hartman, but I'm not really trusting him after what you saw against Louisville. I thought you saw him pressing, turning the ball over. Caleb Williams still plays for USC. Got that. I'm taking USC until they have proven me otherwise. Give me the Trojans. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.